Hey there, Amplifiers. Manny Torres here, and I'm excited for another episode of Growth Amplifiers. And I have an awesome guest here today. I have Shellee Howard, CEO of College Ready. Shellee is the best-selling author of How to Send Your Students to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. She has been fortunate to do what she loves and make a living doing it. And I'm happy to welcome Shellee to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to speak with you, not only because you have some great information, but also because I have two young boys. One is 8 going on 9 and the other's 11. So this is something that's top of the mind for me. But for our listeners, can you give a brief introduction of yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So College Ready actually started with my firstborn. Like you, when he hit about 10, 11, I'm like, we should probably start giving some thought into this college thing. Now, I did start saving in a 529 based on some advice I received early on, and I'll speak to that later on. What I found is that I was not prepared at all. I did my best, but in the end, I didn't prepare properly. And so the good news is when my son graduated from high school, he had 7 full ride offers, ended up going to Harvard 4 years for free, went on to UC San Diego Medical School, and is now an orthopedic surgeon. I tell that story not as a bragging parent, but as a example of I didn't screw it up. So I always tell parents, when you really are fearful of, I need a book on this parenting thing, that firstborn really does help break you in. His sister, 4 years later, her dream school was University of Alabama. She ended up getting a full ride there. And now she is a pediatric nurse in an emergency room. So I have a doctor and a nurse. My stepson, he is going a totally different path. He is going into film and news. And so he's up in San Francisco where it all happens. And he is living his dream of being a newscaster. So it is a fun, different path completely. And then my fourth, she's the one who mixed it all up. She graduated this past year, and she'll be studying this winter for the next 3 years at AAU in Prague in the Czech Republic. And she's studying international business. Because she has 3 siblings ahead of her that did it all without debt, there was a little bit of pressure on how she was going to pull it off as well. So she took a totally different path. And I'm happy to answer questions about international schools. I also help students internationally. So College Ready actually happened because I was a parent on a mission to help my children get into the best fit college and do it without going into debt. And that is how I ended up in this wonderful world of college planning.
That's an incredible story. And obviously you've got several different of your children, different stories, different pathways that are all unique. So I'm sure you have a wide range of experience with that, not only with your own kids, but also helping others. But in terms of who you serve the best, is there a type of person that you primarily work with or that you look to work with?
So I've been doing this, I'm going into my 16th year. So I have honestly pretty much worked with any type of student. We now really find our strength in students with at least a 3.0 GPA because our goal is debt-free. It's hard to get somebody without a 3.0 GPA a reduced education. Colleges want them to work for it. And so that's where we find the money stops, if you will, for merit-based. Now, need-based is a whole nother thing that we can get into. So basically, we start working with students as young as 7th grade, depending on their maturity and their desire. And then we help them all the way through high school into college transfers if they find us at that point. Into med school, law school, and even PhD. So it really is an opportunity for any student who wants to get into a really great college and do it in a way that's not going to strap them or put them in debt.
That's great. And I'm sure so many parents are excited to have someone like you to help them through that process. And you talked a little bit about that you can start working with those kids, maybe in that middle school part. So what's the best time for those parents to start working with you so that they don't lose their mind or their money and that they can start setting that pathway, that roadmap for success?
This is such a great question. Over the years, I've had many different people who've had asked this question. I've had parents when they're pregnant call me and say, I'd like a college plan, please. And I've had them in preschool. I've had parents call me in elementary school, but ultimately, I can give some really helpful advice. When your kids are babies, put your cell phone in a magazine or a book and help them think that you are reading a book. A love of reading will serve them well. If they see you on your cell phone, they want to be on your cell phone. So monkey see, monkey do until about middle school. Then in middle school, they get so smart, they know what you're doing. And so at that point, it's really important to help them understand that college is not like middle school or high school. It is truly unique because if they get to pick their major, pick their classes, pick the days they go to school, so on and so forth. And so I always tell parents, tell them about either your story, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, if you didn't go to college, or take them on college campuses and let them see it for themselves. I mean, you go to museums, right? You go to art exhibits. College is another form of cultural awareness. And so I started taking my kids on tours. As we visited Boston, we went to Harvard and MIT. So it was just part of our family culture to experience, wow, college is another opportunity to go and learn about the world. And then when they're in about 7th and 8th grade, you'll start to get some great questions like, why do I need to learn this? Why is this important to me? That is when they're ready to start understanding that the choices they make in 7th and 8th grade will carry all the way through until they get into college. And so that is the best way. Perfect time to start. If I could pick the perfect time, it would be at the end of 8th grade. I mean, after that, it just gets more challenging because every year a student's on their own, they make mistakes. So if I get a student in their junior or senior year, I first have to patch the mistakes before I can move forward. So it's important for the student to not feel frustrated by mistakes that have been made because they didn't know what they didn't know. That I like, and before they even hit high school, their very first classes. Because once a student gets on a path in high school, say the remedial math path, they may not get into calculus BC on that path. And if they want to go to med school, that may be a problem. So it doesn't really settle into parents until they go through this with their firstborn. But truly, the difference between taking the right classes from the beginning and not is the difference between salutatorian and not. Which for some people, it's not a big deal, but for others, that could be critical.
Those are some great tips there. And I really like the one about the cell phone in the book. I didn't even think about that, but that's a great little tip there. And I'm going to have to try that some. I try and not have my phone out as much as possible, but I think that's a great tip. And those other ones are as well. You touched on some things that families can do. Are there some common mistakes that you see families make that you can help guide them in a better direction?
I guess the number one that terrifies me a bit is we're just going to wait and see what happens. And if they get in, we'll figure how we're going to pay for it. Of all the mistakes that could be made, that one scares me the most, because what parents don't understand is there's two sides to getting into college and paying for college. There's the student side, which is get the good grades, the test scores, the community service, the leadership, the extracurricular, letters of recommendation, and the essays. Like, that's the student. But what the parents don't understand is their financial future is the FAFSA. And that looks at the second semester of the sophomore year and the first semester of the junior year. So if you're truly waiting until the party is over, you have missed every scholarship opportunity available to you. So that is the two most common treacherous mistakes families can make.
Hey there, this is Kenny from Growth Amplifiers, here to ensure you get your awesome ideas into action to grow and improve your business and achieve your full potential. Take the first step by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. Take the assessment to get your personalized score. Then select from free resources to learn how to improve your score. Don't wait. Be proactive and take action now by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. And always keep on amplifying. Now, let's get back to the show.
I can definitely see that, and I agree. You've got a plan, otherwise you're planning to fail. We speak with a lot of advisors, tax professionals, and accountants. Is that something that you recommend your clients do? Is reach out to someone that's helping them with their tax to see if there's opportunities where they can maybe leverage some of those tax benefits that they can use for their college savings?
Yes, and I have to preface it with an and. Like every other profession, not everybody's versed in college planning. So you can have a wonderful CPA, as I do, but he didn't know anything about my strategy for college planning. Not to, it's not what they teach you in, to be an accountant. They teach you code and tax code. So unless somebody has a good reason to learn it, like a child of their own, those are usually really good because they've learned everything they can. What I work a ton with financial advisors. I work a ton with CPAs and bookkeepers because I am a specialist in all things college planning. I know everything there is to know about tax code when it comes to college planning. Now, I don't do my taxes. I'm not saying go and do it on your own at all. I'm saying, yes, I love my tax advisor and my financial advisor. I think they're brilliant. And they know so much more about so many other things. But what I have found is we work really well together. I have a ton of joint ventures with CPAs and financial advisors because they know that planning and strategizing is critical, but what they don't know is which colleges are the most generous. So when they bring me in, and if a student says, hey, I want to go to NYU, and the bottom line is $88,000 a year, and a family is like in sticker shock, I can then speak to, based on the student's GPA, test score, so on and so forth, their chances of receiving scholarship money is this percent. And then I can give them a very solid idea of what and how much they need to plan for. So it's really a partnership between myself and the other advisors. And that's why I love working with them, because ultimately the customer gets the benefit of both sets of knowledge. So yes, and is the way I like to answer that.
I like that because we believe also that, advisors should have a specialty and that they should have that network of specialists and experts in subject matters like yourself that they can bring in and really get the best information for their clients so that their clients are going to be able to achieve what they're looking to achieve. Shellee, can you share a story of someone that you've been able to help through their challenge of being able to pay for their college?
Absolutely. So this year was our 15th application season. And last year, our students earned over $17.6 million in scholarships. So I had a family come to me. They heard me on a podcast and they're like, how do we get a piece of all that scholarship stuff? We've had some health issues in our family and our child's brilliant, but we just can't afford it. So if she got into her dream school, which was Stanford, we just couldn't afford it. And we don't want to tell her that. So I said, absolutely, we've got you on this. And so we've worked with this family for the past year to really help them get a solid plan in place. And I'm happy to report she just got in to Stanford. And it is a beautiful package, and the family could not be more excited. And it allowed this family to feel like they didn't let down their child, and also for the child to really step up and say, hey, I pulled my weight. I feel really good about what I've accomplished. So it was a win-win for them.
That's a great story and an incredible school. So I'm sure that student is very excited, heading out to California and Palo Alto. I'm sure they're heads over heels for that.
For sure.
Shellee, what's an actionable step our listeners could take today that could help them on their journey as they're helping their kids prepare for college? Maybe that first step to ensure that they're starting to make that plan and that roadmap for themselves.
So step number one is just like it is in the world of financial advising. It's a plan. Without a plan, there's going to be a problem. And so the first step that I recommend is getting really clear on, are you paying for college? Is your student paying for college? And for those of you who think the student can get a loan on their own, alert, alert, they have no assets. So there is no opportunity for a student to do this on their own. They need at least a cosigner at best. I've had a few shocked parents with that one. So it's coming. I mean, the percentage of students now going off to college is significant. It's not a privilege anymore. It is a necessity. So plan as soon as possible. Knowledge is the key to success. I mentioned earlier that I was advised to have a 529 plan that actually bit me bad when my son got his offer to Harvard. They found out that I had a significant amount of money saved and they wanted it before they would offer me anything else. That was terrifying for me because that wouldn't have covered more than 2 years. So there are things that I just didn't know. I didn't know that I needed to really think through that the 529 is shown on your FAFSA as available cash to give to the college. So with that in mind, you want to understand what is on the FAFSA and what is not on the FAFSA. It's just like tax code, right? You can read the whole tax code book, or you can ask a tax advisor. I highly recommend. I've read the FAFSA code 3 times and was asleep 2 of them. On the final try, I got it right because I've had to complete the FAFSA myself for the past 9 years. I know it like nobody's business. It has a column of what they don't look at. So any wise person would go, if they're telling me what they're not going to look at, that may be important. So the knowledge that the family needs is truly what's important before you even get into what is the best school. Because college is expensive, you want a return on investment. If your student's going into social work or botany, it's not going to matter the university they attend. So do you need to spend the same amount of money as somebody who's going into a career that counts on it? These are all conversations that you want to have before your child hits high school. I know it's a lot, but it's like, if you don't, it's like getting into your 60s and saying, I should think about retirement. It's a bit scary at that point. So those are really some things I encourage all families to do regardless of your financial status.
Those are great tips, Shellee. And I think that's helpful. Don't kick the can down the road, step up and start to educate yourself as early as possible so that you can make those smart decisions. And Shellee, as our audience is listening to that, to your tips, and they're starting to say to themselves, hey, I really need to reach out to Shellee and find a way that I can start preparing for my child's education. What's the best way for them to connect with you, and how can they reach out?
So I would happily gift your listeners a free copy of my best-selling book, How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. All they have to do is go to freebook.collegereadyplan.com, freebook.collegereadyplan.com. And that way they can have a free copy. It is truly the foundation of where to start and a step-by-step workbook of what they need to be working through. So at minimum, that will be an aha of where do I start? And then I'm also offering a complimentary discovery call with myself, 30 minutes, where I can help answer all of those questions that everybody has an individual approach. And all they have to do is go to my website, which is collegereadyplan.com, click on discovery call, and set a time that works for them, and I'm happy to help.
Shellee, that's really generous. And I hope all of our listeners make sure to go ahead and grab that free book. Go ahead and visit her website. We'll add the link in the description, and also set up that consultation if you're at that point where you're ready to have your questions answered. Shellee, I'm really excited to have you here today. I appreciate your time and you sharing your insights. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.